Hi guys, and welcome to The Colorful Gardener. My name is Josh, and today I want to show you how to plant a tree. But if you're new here, go ahead and consider subscribing to get more gardening tips. So beside me, I have a Fuji apple tree that I planted in my island bed. From a previous video, I showed you a tutorial on how to create an island bed. So now I'm beginning to plant it up. And the best thing to do when you have an island bed is to start out with the largest things first and then work your way around them. So I wanted to plant this Fuji apple tree here in the island bed to give me lots of apples. So not only will it give me nice pink flowers in the springtime, but hopefully in the summertime it will give me some wonderful Fuji apples to harvest from. I planted this tree about a week ago, and I want to show you the steps that I went through to make sure I have a healthy tree in this island bed and it's successful in years down the road. So here are the steps to make sure that you plant a tree right. First, I'm going to go ahead and just remove some of this mulch. So this hole is going to be about 3 feet by 3 feet, which is plenty big for the tree roots to grow in for a starting out hole. Now I have the soil exposed. I'm going to go ahead and take that soil out and put in the wheelbarrow and use for later. So a little tip I like to do is take my shovel and go into the side of the hole, just like this, so the roots can penetrate the walls of the hole that I'm creating. Okay, so I have my tree here. This is the Fuji apple tree that I'm going to be planted. It's nice and tall. I think it's going to look really nice in this island bed and fill it out pretty well. I dug it out from my backyard. It wasn't getting enough light, so I'm putting it out in the front garden so it'll get more full sun. And hopefully it'll give me apples in a few years. All right, so the tree, it's in the hole. And I've got all these nice fibrous roots ready to go out into the soil. And you want to make sure that the roots are facing downwards into the soil. You don't want them above the soil, you want to make sure. Okay, so I've got the root ball inside the hole, and we've got a nice root flare, lots of filamentous roots that are ready to go into the soil and start looking for nutrients and water and to get itself established. Another thing is make sure that the root flare is actually a little bit above the surface of the soil line than you had it before. So I'm going to take my shovel here, and as you can see, it's a little low, so I'm going to raise it up just a bit more to get above the soil line. And you'll notice I'm not using any compost as I'm putting the soil back, because it's very tempting to do that, but your tree will stay in that hole and it won't try to search for new soil and nutrients and water. And what I want it to do is to extend its roots out into the soil so it can get itself established. Make sure you break up any big clods you see in the soil so it's nice and fluffy. Okay, so let's put it back over, and yep, it's much higher now. Remember, I have to also put mulch around this so it can conserve water for the tree, and so it needs to be a little bit higher than the soil line. One thing I like to add to any tree or shrub when I'm planting in the landscape is mycorrhizae, and this is mycos. It's mycorrhizal inoculum, and what this does, it helps your plants take up nutrients and water better. And it's a natural occurring fungus that has a symbiotic relationship with your plant roots, and it basically extends the roots out even farther to help them absorb water and nutrients into smaller soil particles that your roots can't get into yet. I've really seen a difference when I apply this to my plants in the garden versus the ones I haven't. I think that it's a great tool to use in your garden, especially when you're planting out new plants in new garden beds that are having a hard time establishing themselves. So definitely check out Mycos. I'll put a link in the bottom of the YouTube video so you can check it out. Mycorrhizae, this can be used for almost any plant. You can use it for vegetables, you can use it for flowering plants, trees, and shrubs as well. To apply your mycorrhizal inoculum, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna sprinkle it right around the edges. It comes out a nice powdery substance. I wanna make sure those mycorrhiza gets nice contact with the soil and the roots. That's key. You wanna make sure that it's nice and covered. And that should be good enough. Okay, so I've got my mycorrhiza, I prepared the soil, and I have got the hole ready. So it's time to backfill the soil and make sure this tree gets established pretty well. All right, so the tree is planted, and now a really important step is to make sure you water any tree or shrub that you plant out. So I'm using a watering can, and I'm using rainwater that I've collected from my rain barrel, and I love it. I love being able to use rainwater, especially on my plants. And what I'm gonna do is just water this in thoroughly. And you can see that it is exposing the root flare, which is good because I want to be able to see it, and nice and soaked. I don't want to let this dry out at all, for sure. I am going to water this about 3 times total with this watering can to make sure the soil is nice and moist. And the rule that I like to follow is whenever I plant out a tree or shrub, I like to water it at least once a week for the first year. Now I want to make sure that I put mulch around it. And a common mistake people will do is this. This is not what you want to do. Do not put mulch around your tree like this. This is called mulch volcanoes, and you will see it all the time around buildings, people's houses, and it's the wrong way to do it. Please don't ever do this to your plants, especially trees. What will happen is your roots will start to go through that mulch and begin to try to get air. That's what it's trying to do. If you ever pull back mulch from those mulch island volcanoes, you'll see the roots are just below that mulch trying to get air. And what you want to do is the exact opposite of this mulch volcano. So what you want to do is you do want to put mulch around the tree, but you want to do a very thin layer of it. So just barely over it, the roots. And what I like to do is I call this a bird's nest or a donut or whatever you want to call it. What I do is I still put mulch over the root flare, but very thinly. And I will move mulch in a donut ring around the root flare. See, there's still mulch covering the root flare, and you're not gonna have suffocating roots. And why I'm doing this is because water can collect inside of this little trench. I have very hot and humid summers, and I get very little water throughout the summer. And so any chance that water can collect here is an opportunity for this plant to take it up. And as simple as that. I mean, you don't need to pile on the mulch up to here. You just need to do a thin layer around the root flare, and then what you do is you build a little berm in a circle around it so water can collect inside of here. If you have very hot and humid and dry summers like I do, this is a great way to help your trees establish themselves. And I'm gonna water this in one more time, and I'll do this every weekend for 1 year until this tree is completely established. Okay, and we have a tree that's planted. I'm really excited about seeing how this guy will grow throughout this year, and hopefully it will produce fruit for me in a couple of years. But that was it for the gist of planting a tree. Make sure you water every week for the first year to make sure it gets established. And thank you guys for watching. My name is Josh, and this is The Colorful Gardener.